Tonight at 10, the Conservatives and Labour go head-to-head on taxes, promising policies fair to everyone if they win the election. Theresa May says no to VAT rises, but there's no pledge on keeping current levels of income tax or national insurance.
We have absolutely no plans to increase the level of tax, but I'm also very clear that I don't want to make specific proposals on taxes unless I'm absolutely sure that I can deliver on those.
Look, we're the party that wants low taxes for low and medium earners. The Conservative Party are the party that wants low taxes for the high earners.
This is great work from Joshua. What fitness, what heart from Klitschko, but the fight has been stopped!
Britain's champion heavyweight Anthony Joshua reflects on that extraordinary victory over Vladimir Klitschko at Wembley. Donald Trump says he hasn't ruled out military action against North Korea after the country's second ballistic missile test in 2 weeks. And 10 years after the disappearance of Madeleine McCann, her parents tell the BBC they'll do whatever it takes for as long as it takes to find their daughter. Good evening. Theresa May says there'll be no increase in VAT if the Conservatives win the general election, with Labour saying it wouldn't increase the tax either. But the Prime Minister did signal she may scrap a pledge made by David Cameron not to raise income tax or national insurance. Mrs May has also made it clear she expects hard talks with the European Union over Brexit. It follows comments from the German Chancellor Angela Merkel that Britain mustn't delude itself about the outcome of the negotiations. Here's our political correspondent, Ben Wright.
Working people in this country have paid enough tax. As this economy recovers, I want you to be able to keep more of your own money to spend as you choose.
It was a startling policy, a solemn promise made days before the 2015 general election. David Cameron said 3 key taxes, VAT, income tax and national insurance, would not go up for a 5-year parliament. So will Theresa May repeat that pledge in her manifesto?
We have absolutely no plans to increase the level of tax, but I'm also very clear that I don't want to make specific proposals on taxes unless I'm absolutely sure that I can deliver on those.
A pretty strong hint the Prime Minister does not think the existing tax freeze can be continued. And remember, just last month, the Chancellor's plan to raise a national insurance rate in the budget was criticised for breaking the manifesto tax pledge, and the move was ditched. Why does all this matter? Because public services cost money. Politicians need to decide how to balance the growing demands of hospitals, schools, social care, defence, with voters' willingness to pay. Today there was clarity from the Prime Minister on one part of the Conservatives' tax pledge.
We won't be increasing VAT.
But no matching promise on national insurance or income tax, the other big revenue raisers.
I know I'm going to get told off for overlong answers, so this won't be an overlong answer.
Labour has also promised not to raise VAT and is making a lot of spending promises, which it says will be costed in their manifesto.
We're the party that wants low taxes for low and medium earners. The Conservative Party are the party that wants low taxes for the high earners. We look at things the other way around. And so, yes, there will be changes, but there will be very, very much at the top end.
Over the next couple of weeks, we'll get the party manifestos, when rhetoric over tax and spending may crystallise into policy. But of all the uncertainties facing Britain over the next few years, the biggest is Brexit. And there seems to be a divide between Theresa May and the rest of the EU over how the negotiations should happen. Yesterday, EU leaders dismissed the idea of a quick trade deal and said there had to be progress on the terms of the divorce first, including the money Britain owes. But Theresa May has other ideas.
Yes, they do want to start some discussions about money. I'm very clear that at the end of the negotiations, we need to be clear not just about the Brexit arrangement, the exit, how we withdraw, but also what our future relationship is going to be.
Opposition parties said the government was kidding itself.
The Prime Minister is not in charge of the agenda. There are 27 member states in the European Union, apart from the UK. They're absolutely united. They're holding a common line. And Theresa May is not going to be able to tell them what to do.
But the EU will not begin to negotiate with us until after polling day and a new Westminster government is in place. Ben Wright, BBC News.
Anthony Joshua says he still has much to learn, despite becoming the world's leading heavyweight boxer after an extraordinary victory over Vladimir Klitschko at Wembley Stadium last night. In one of the biggest fights ever held on British soil, he was knocked down by the Ukrainian former champion, but recovered and went on to stop his opponent in the 11th round. Our sports correspondent Natalie Perks caught up with Anthony Joshua today.
Joshua gets up off the canvas in the 6th and brutally finishes Klitschko challenge in the 11th.
With every headline comes the realisation of what he's achieved. Overnight global superstardom. But with the spoils of his greatest night never far from his side, Anthony Joshua's staying the only way he knows how. Grounded.
So global sporting stuff. Do you know what it is? I'm going back to the same house with the same family, you know, nothing changes. Do you know what I mean? On the perception and the reach changes, but where I'm at and where I'm based, the ground I'm on doesn't change. So it is nice, it's amazing, but I'm still a warrior, I'm still a fighter, and I have to keep that mindset right now.
The night began with a visual feast as AJ played his title role to perfection. But for a while here, it looked as if his dream would also be about to go up in flames. The fight pitted power against experience, and after 4 kg rounds, Joshua suddenly exploded into life. But with 69 career fights comes resilience, and boy did Klitschko come back. Britain's boy wonder was down.
What a right hand.
Many believed he was out.
I knew I had something in me that wasn't going to let me stay down, and that was all it was. I just knew I could get up, no problem.
The belief spurred him on to greatness. In round 11, he had Klitschko down not once, but twice. The referee ensuring no further damage was done.
And I said to him, look, what you've done in boxing is phenomenal. And I said, don't let one fight define your whole career. I said, in the Boxing Hall of Fame, you'll go down as a legend. And if you want to come again, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here to fight. But don't let one fight determine your whole career, because what he's achieved is remarkable.
This fight was a truly global event. Over in Nigeria, where Joshua's parents are from, fans celebrated wildly.
Oh, is this Nigeria?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Jeez. That's what I'm saying. That's that pounded jam, which is a Nigerian food that I eat.
Right.
Keeps me strong. Maybe that's why I'm putting on so much weight. I gotta come off of this.
Battle-scarred but clearly not battle-weary, his 19th knockout of 19 fights has seen him usher in a new era for a heavyweight division that so needed him. Natalie Perks, BBC News.
And you can see a full-length documentary on Anthony Joshua, The Road to Klitschko, at 10 to 12 tonight on BBC One. Now, President Trump says he hasn't ruled out military action against North Korea after another unsuccessful ballistic missile test this weekend by the country. He says he isn't happy about it, but wouldn't be drawn on speculation that the failure of the test was down to a possible US cyber attack. Earlier, it was the American media he had in his sights, attacking them at a rally marking 100 days in office. Our North America editor, John Sopel, reports.
There's no doubt this is where Donald Trump is happiest, and on his 100th day he had a choice. Bathe in the warmth of his still adoring base, or do what presidents have done for decades and stay in Washington for the annual journalist shindig. Given his toxic relationship with the media, that turned out to be no contest.
They are gathered together for the White House Correspondents' Dinner without the president. And I could not possibly be more thrilled than to be more than 100 miles away from Washington Swamp, spending my evening with all of you.
Back in Washington, it was a very different atmosphere. More serious, defensive, yes, but in no way apologetic.
It is our job to report on facts and to hold leaders accountable. That is who we are. We are not fake news.
And for the comedian, an absent president was a rich scene for jokes.
The leader of our country is not here. And that's because he lives in Moscow. It is a very long flight. It'd be hard for Vlad to make it. Vlad can't just make it on a Saturday. It's a Saturday. As for the other guy, I think he's in Pennsylvania because he can't take a joke.
But this is the noise of the presidency. There is deadly serious stuff like North Korea and the real tension as Pyongyang continues to defy the international community, and a lot of what-if scenarios as America tries to intensify the pressure on Kim Jong-un.
If he does a nuclear test, I will not be happy. And I can tell you also, I don't believe that the president of China, who is a very respected man, will be happy either.
You mean military action?
I don't know. I mean, we'll see.
There's a growing belief in Washington that the failure of the last 2 rocket launches in North Korea is down to an American cyber attack.
All of this is designed to do one thing. It is to persuade Kim Jong-un to come to the negotiating table. The threat of a preemptive strike, the talk of intensified diplomatic sanctions. And meanwhile, today, Donald Trump has held conversations with the leader of Singapore and the leader of Thailand to try to put more pressure on the North Koreans. So far, though, you'd have to say, with little effect.
John, many thanks for that. John Sopel there, live in Washington. 10 years after the disappearance of Madeleine McCann, her parents have told the BBC they'll do whatever it takes for as long as it takes to find their daughter. Madeleine was 3 years old when she went missing while on a family holiday in Portugal. Speaking to Fiona Bruce, Kate and Jerry McCann say the pain never leaves them after a decade of uncertainty.
Every day is another day without Madeleine. I think it's just that number, it's that 10-year mark which makes it more significant, I think, because it's a reminder of how much time has gone by, and obviously 10's a big number.
I think that the day and the poignancy of it, that we don't tend to go back to the time because it's so draining, but inevitably on the anniversaries and on our birthday, they are by far the hardest days, by far.
How different is your life now to what you must have imagined all those years ago?
Oh, it's a hard one, isn't it? Because it's such a long time. But
yeah, I think before Madeleine was taken, we felt we'd managed to achieve a little perfect nuclear family of 5. And we had that for a short period, and you adapt and you have a new normality. And unfortunately for us, our new normality at the minute is a family of 4.
And last time we talked, you told me how you were still buying birthday presents and Christmas presents for Madeleine. Are you, with 10 years now, are you still doing that?
I still do that, yeah, and that...
So you go around the shops and you think, Madeleine would be this age now, what would she want? And
that's it. So, I mean, I obviously have to think about what age she is, and something that, you know, whenever we find her, still be appropriate. So there's a lot of thought goes into it, but I couldn't not, you know, she's still our daughter, she'll always be our daughter.
One of the police officers in Portugal has been a thorn in your side for many years. He wrote a book which implicates you, and you fought it through the courts. At the moment, you've lost and he has won.
The last judgment, I think, is terrible, so we will be appealing. We haven't lodged that yet, but it will be going to the
because he was
courts.
effectively suggesting that you were involved in the
I think, you know, what people really need to realise though is, and you know, Assistant Commissioner Rowley has said it again this week, and the Portuguese have said it, and the final report have said it, is there's no evidence that Madeleine's dead. And the prosecutor said, you know, there's no evidence that we were involved in any crime.
The police have talked about one significant lead that they're still pursuing. Can you tell me anything about that?
Well, we're very much, the investigation is in the hands of the Metropolitan Police. There clearly are ongoing inquiries.
We've come a long way, and there is progress. There are some very credible lines of inquiry that the police are working on. And whilst there's no evidence to give us any negative news, you know, that hope is still there. And
so it really is there in your hearts? I hope that
So,
one day
I mean,
you'll be reunited with your daughter.
Yeah, well, no parent's going to give up on their child unless they know for certain their child's dead, and that we just don't have any evidence. So
My
you've
hope
got
of
to.
Madeleine being out there is no less than it was almost 10 years ago. I mean, apart from those first 48 hours, nothing actually has changed since then. I mean, I think the difficult thing has always been, how will we find her? You know, because you're relying on the police doing everything they can, and you're relying on somebody with information coming forward.
Kate and Jerry McCann there speaking to Fiona Bruce. Now, a woman who was shot and wounded by police during a counter-terrorism operation in northwest London last week has now been arrested after being discharged from hospital. Police are still questioning 6 other suspects. Meanwhile, officers have been given more time to question another man, Khalid Mohammed Omar Ali, who was arrested on Thursday near Parliament Square. Dorset police have begun a murder investigation after a man was shot dead at his home in the early hours of the morning. Officers had responded to reports of intruders at the property in St Ives near Ringwood. The victim, who was in his 60s, died in hospital. Now, one of the world's most accomplished mountaineers, Uli Steck, has been killed in an accident on Mount Everest. He was 40. Known as the Swiss Machine, he was climbing alone in preparation for a new route up the mountain. He'd won numerous awards and was celebrated for the speed of his climbs. Alexandra Mackenzie reports.
Mount Everest, dangerous and daunting, even for the most experienced of climbers.
The idea is just climbing from base camp, just on the normal route to Camp 2.
Uli Steck was preparing to tackle a new and particularly difficult route without oxygen.
To the top of Everest. I think it's possible, but we don't know, and that's exactly the challenge, and that's exactly the interesting thing. Nobody has done that before, so I think the chance is there that it's possible, but I don't know.
So he knew the dangers of Everest. He had reached the summit without oxygen in 2012. In 2015, he climbed all 82 alpine peaks over 4,000 metres in just 62 days. And he conquered the north face of the Eiger in less than 3 hours. Uli Steck was on Everest to acclimatise when it's thought that he slipped and fell. His body has been recovered and tributes have been paid.
He broke amazing records by a mixture of modesty, humility, and great ability, on top of athleticism of the most amazing type.
I'll peak again. Pretty cool.
The climbing community says it has lost a pioneer. He was known for his speed and ruthlessly methodical approach, with an ability to push himself to the limits of human endurance. Alexandra Mackenzie, BBC News.
Now, with all the sport, here's Lizzie Greenwood-Hughes at the BBC Sports Centre. Hi, Lizzie.
Hello, thank you very much, Clive. Good evening. It's been an important day at the top of the Premier League. Match of the Day 2 follows the news, so if you don't want to know the results, please avert your attention. Chelsea moved a step closer to clinching the title after Tottenham kept up the pressure behind Chelsea in second place after winning the last ever North London derby at White Hart Lane. Dele Alli and Harry Kane scored the goals in the second half. The victory guarantees Spurs will finish the season above Arsenal for the first time in more than 2 decades. So this is how the top of the Premier League table looks after today's action with 4 games left to play. Chelsea are 4 points ahead of Spurs. Manchester City and United stay 4th and 5th after both were held by relegation strugglers. City drew 2-2 at Middlesbrough, while United against Swansea finished 1-1. Valtteri Bottas held his nerve to win his first Formula One race at the Russian Grand Prix. The Finn led virtually from start to finish, leaving his frustrated Mercedes teammate Lewis Hamilton struggling back in 4th place. Ben Croucher reports.
Eyeing a maiden F1 win, today was Valtteri Bottas's time to shine. With teammate Lewis Hamilton off the pace this weekend, it was up to the Finnish driver to take the fight to Ferrari. He had 2 to get past off the grid. He dispatched them in 2 corners. The second of those proved trickier for Britain's Jolyon Palmer, whose race ended in a tangle of tyres. As Hamilton struggled his way to fourth, the seemingly unflappable Finn, so comfortable leading for so long, flat with his first win in sight. This error allowed championship leader Sebastian Vettel to hunt him down over the final few nerve-wracking laps. It was edge-of-your-seat stuff, as Vettel's Ferrari hassled and hustled, but the tussle would be won by Bottas, a Grand Prix winner at the 82nd attempt.
Yes! Brilliant! Well done!
It took quite a while, you know, more than 80 races for me, but definitely worth the wait, definitely worth the learning curve, and this strange opportunity came to me in the winter to join this team, and they made it possible today.
Some questioned if Bottas would play number 2 to Lewis Hamilton this season. Today, at least, he was very much number 1. Ben Croucher, BBC News.
John Higgins is still comfortably ahead of Mark Selby halfway through their World Snooker final. The Scot was leading the defending champion and world number 1 8-4 at the mid-session interval in Sheffield. And the latest from the Crucible is that Higgins is now 10-6 up, looking for his 5th world title. It's the first to 18 frames. The match concludes tomorrow. One of the most prominent figures in world football has resigned after being linked to a corruption scandal. Sheikh Ahmed Al Fahd Al Sabah was a senior official at FIFA, football's world governing body, but has recently been linked to a fraud case. He strongly denies any allegations of wrongdoing. And that's the sport. Back to you, Clive.
Lizzie, thanks for that. And that's it. You can see more on all of today's stories on the BBC News channel. But do stay with us on BBC One. It's now time for all the news where you are. Have a very good night.